It's very sad to say this, but I think Finn Balor might just be done with WWE. And I don't mean that he's leaving the company. I don't mean that he is going to sign somewhere else and reinvent himself. I think that Finn is going to stay with WWE, and I think he's going to stay at the level that he is currently at. And that is a very good mid-carder, but never back in the main event. Finn Balor is arguably one of the best wrestlers of his generation. You go back and look at his work in New Japan Pro Wrestling, the original founder of the Bullet Club, the revolutionary who changed the face of NXT and what that brand would become in 2014, and the guy who was catapulted to the top of the wrestling world when he was drafted to Raw in the summer of 2016 and then given the inaugural version of the Universal Championship. Finn Balor is someone who genuinely had it all at one point and then very shortly and quickly thereafter had all of that taken away from him. And regardless of how great he is, regardless of how functional and entertaining he might be, we will never get that Finn Balor back. And it all comes back to the fact that at SummerSlam 2016, in that now infamous match with Seth Rollins, despite the fact that he dislocated his shoulder and finished the match, he was no longer viewed by WWE as a top guy. And the fact is, at that point, every time he returned, WWE was too scared to give him the ball. There was no point that he ever looked like he was poised for another major run with the championship. There was no point after that he looked like WWE's guy. There was no point after that where you seriously believed that Finn Balor was going to win. In fact, he has now become synonymous with a new nickname over the past couple of years, Pin Balor. And that is because, more often than not, whenever Finn has a major match, he's the one taking the pin. And it is a sad state of affairs. Even a run in 2019 in NXT that people believed was going to do wonders for his career didn't end up working out. Instead, Finn just became an angry guy who would beat people up, but again, would fail to ever really be a true main eventer. None of even the work that he did to build himself up or attempt to build himself up in NXT would go on to translate to the main roster. Even when Triple H, the guy who loved Finn, the guy who made Finn into a can't miss prospect in 2016 in WWE, even Triple H at that point when he took over in 2022 could not get him back to the level that he once was. And this brings up the question, how much of this is on Finn? How much of this is on booking? How much of this is on perception? And the fact of the matter is, it's got everything to do with that last piece. Yes, you can blame Finn Balor for potentially, allegedly, reportedly not fighting for more. You could blame the WWE management for not putting an emphasis on a guy like Finn, for not trying to rebuild him to that level when we all know that skill was not the issue. But I think that a larger issue is the way that fans perceive him. Fans do not perceive Finn Balor as a main event guy. You cannot tell me that you view Finn in the same light that you view Roman. You cannot tell me that you view Finn in the same light that you view Cody. You cannot tell me that you view Finn in the same light that you view CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, any of those people who continue to be in the main event picture in WWE. You cannot tell me in a believable way that Finn belongs in that class. You can make an argument about it just based off of talent, but in WWE especially, fan perception is everything. And if people don't believe that you can be that guy, odds are you are not gonna be that guy. That's why Finn, to this day, is kind of been pegged as a tag team wrestler. That's why they haven't gotten him away from the Judgment Day, which, in my view, is a group that has drastically overstayed its welcome, but they just don't have another role for him. And it's a weird conundrum for WWE to be in, because they had a chance to cut ties with Finn Balor a couple of years ago and chose instead to bring him back. Now, you could make the argument that the Judgment Day at that time was at the height of its popularity. You could make the argument that at that time the WWE direction was a lot better and more focused than it is currently, and that Finn in that version of WWE in 2023 and 2024 was a more influential and important character, even though he wasn't a main event guy. All of that can be true, but it can also be true that in 2025, going into 2026, Finn Balor is not really doing that much. Yeah, he was the tag team champion. They lost the tag team championship belts. Where do they go now? This tease that they have had of the breakup of the Judgment Day for the past 2 years that has never actually come to fruition, where is that heading? And more importantly for Finn Balor, what is his purpose in WWE outside of just being a guy in the Judgment Day? Because if we're being honest, he was supposed to be the guy in that group at one point, but then got one-upped by Dominic Mysterio, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. The group that was supposed to build him up as the next thing. He was supposed to take over from Edge. Instead, every single person that joined him has outflanked and outdone him in that group. When you think of the Judgment Day, Finn is probably the third or fourth member that you think of. Hell, you're going to have some people who probably think of Carlito more than they think of Finn. And that is the issue. The perception of Finn Balor is the biggest problem. And I don't think at this point it is something that can be fixed. But hey, I guess we'll see.